Today it's March 11 and it's 5:39 and this is our regular CRA board meeting. Mr. City Clerk, let the record show that we have quorum to do business today.
Thank you. Chairwoman Tandwo. Board Member Galvin.
Here.
I sent it.
Board Member Bien-Aimé.
Here.
Board Member Steril.
Here.
Board Member Keys.
Here.
Vice Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Good evening again. Today is our regular CRA board meeting. This is the first meeting that I'm going to have as a vice chair of the CRA, and hopefully everybody helped me and we had a good time. And can I have a motion to
Approve the agenda.
approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda for this evening.
Second.
Roll call.
Vice Chair Bien-Aimé.
Yes.
Board Member Keys.
Here. Yes.
Board Member
Yes.
Steril.
Yes.
Board Member Galvin.
Yes.
Approved 4-0.
Thank you. And
May I have
Can-
an agenda to approve the minutes, please?
I'll move the
motion.
approval of
a motion to
I'm sorry,
motion
a motion
to
approve the
approve the minute from the meeting on February 10, 2014.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody wish to recognize no? Thank you.
4-0.
Our first item.
Mr. Director,
First item in the agenda, amendment of the CRA redevelopment plan and extension of the life of the CRA, discussion for vision for the downtown area.
Item 1, it's on the floor for discussion. Mr. Manager, Director, sir.
Good evening, Vice Chair and board members. We have Dr. Frank Snidman here with us tonight. The purpose of this item is to give the CRA board members a foresight of how we're planning on moving forward with the downtown redevelopment plan and how it will synchronize with the life of the CRA, and how it also on the city side fits in with the vision of the downtown area. As you know, that the downtown area is a part of the CRA. This board approved contractually for us to hire Dr. Frank Snidman to be a consultant and an agent to represent the CRA when presenting himself to the county to extend the CRA. He's pretty much on par, but we want to keep this board apprised of what's happening and what has developed so far. So I'm going to ask him to.
And before, Director, if I remember on the last meeting that we have about the CRA, about the extension of the life of the CRA, one of the main things was in order for us to move forward and extend it and the life of the CRA, we need to see project. And
That's correct.
I thought in the meeting tonight you are gonna sit down with a member of the council and with mayor, council member to know exactly what type of project do we have, and then see if we need to extend the life of the CRA or not. Do we have project? Do we need the CRA? I thought tonight this is what we were gonna see, and from what I understand, and nobody from the CRA will be, or from staff didn't come to me, didn't sit down to me to see Mr. Bien-Aimé, and do you identify some of the project in your area, in your district? And I thought you were going to do that. Then we can see exactly if we need to extend the CRA or not. This is what I thought. The downtown, I understand this is a part of the CRA, but I thought the CRA by himself was going to identify projects and bring it to us and see exactly whether or not we're willing to extend their life or not.
You are correct, Vice Chair, to an extent that we already have a plan that was put together some time ago, and Dr. Snitman can go into that. But you are correct. Tonight is a part of your vision, so that you can see from his perspective where we are, where we're going. And this meeting, we would get your vision as to what else, once you understand the plan, what else you would like to see, so that we as staff can develop sort of like a plan and put a dollar amount to it, so we would know what direction we will be going. So this is a part of that process.
Okay, I thought the first part was to sit down with us first, then match up our plan or vision with staff, and then move forward.
We will be, but we just wanted, you never had an opportunity to see what the existing plan was, okay, and what it is. Some of the items that you may be, that you have a vision for, may already be in what was already set forth. So once you see what's there, we don't want to come to you without you seeing what already exists. So once you see this visioning process, which is tonight, we're going to come back to you and find out what it is that you like and what you don't like. So it would be difficult to bring Dr. Snitman to all of you independently. This would be the proper forum to do that, and then we'll be coming to you individually.
I don't know if any board member want to say something about that, or if we want to move forward with Dr. Snitman. Nobody?
If I might.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. We've got a long council agenda before us this evening, so I hope whatever comes tonight is to the point and fruitful. But I would agree with the Vice Chairman that our CRA has sort of fallen off, I feel, over the last year, maybe year and a half, as there have been so few CRA meetings. The CRA Advisory Board isn't meeting. I can't tell you what's going on a day-to-day basis outside of a few facade improvements. So it would be nice after tonight if there is some sort of discussion, as we might have more time or whatever, to talk about what projects we think the CRA should be doing, and to sort of get an update from staff on what is actually happening there. Right now, like I said, outside of facade, I can't tell you. So.
And that's why we wanted to start having these meetings. We're having them frequently. We're having them every month. And this is a part of that process, is to keep you appraised of what's going on, but also where has that other plan been. Then we'll be able to come to you. So I think Dr. Snitman can clear up a lot of that tonight.
Okay, we want to see that because the CRA can be a good asset for the city, but we don't want to see all the most of the taxpayers' money goes to the CRA, and the CRA, what they're going to do, it's bring us beauty supply, beauty salon, and barber shop. We want real project
Absolutely.
that can show that the city want to move forward.
Absolutely.
Mr.
Dr. Snitman.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board. My name is... Good evening,
Good.
Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the board. My name is Frank Schnidman. I'm a consultant to the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of North Miami. First, let me say that given your comments, I'd be more than willing to meet with each of you before the April CRA board meeting to go over what's in detail in the existing plan. And I'll ask Leslie to make sure that each of you get a copy of the plan. It's not a big document. And it was done in 2005 with an amendment in 2008. And let me address one question or one point that you made about the source and the distribution of the tax revenue from the area of the CRA. As we all know, the CRA is 60% of the city of North Miami. When the CRA was established in 2005 under state law, what it did was it basically set a target, basically set, it froze is the right word, the amount of tax revenue that was going to go into the city's general fund. So the city still receives the tax revenue from the value of the property within the CRA as it was in 2005. And the only revenues that go into the CRA trust fund are in fact the increment that has occurred since 2005 and will continue to occur for the useful life of the CRA. And I'd be more than willing to go over that in detail when I meet with each of you. What's been happening, and what I think Steve Zelkowitz mentioned last week when he went through the process for amending the plan and the extension of life, is that when the city negotiated with the county to establish the CRA, and in subsequent interlocal agreements, there was a decision made that the CRA would sunset in 2016, absent an amendment to the plan which showed additional capital projects and programs that would justify the continuation of the CRA. Now, we all are aware, as the city manager's memo says to you, we're all aware of the significant adversity that the city of North Miami has faced since the CRA plan was first approved in 2005. It's not only been a problem for the city, it's been a problem for the county, the state, the nation, and the world. And we are just coming out of that economic downturn. And so a lot of the goals and objectives of the original redevelopment plan have not been realized. And in fact, as we all know, the catalytic project, which was supposed to drive the revenue, was the initial Biscayne Landing plan and the North Miami housing effort to provide a one-for-one affordable housing element. Now that is no longer economically feasible, no longer a part of the Biscayne Landing Olita Partners revised agreement, and therefore that is an element of the redevelopment plan that needs to be modified. That does not mean that we're modifying the provision of affordable housing and the assistance of those people who can't afford the maintenance of their homes as first envisioned in the redevelopment plan. It just means the language about one for one and North Miami Partners and how that is going to be handled has to be amended out, and that is CRA wide. And there are a number of projects and programs in the current redevelopment plan that are still viable, but there are others which need to be tweaked to recognize the current realities. In addition, the city, recognizing these problems that it was facing economically, actually began in 2009 to collect the information that was going to be needed in order to amend the redevelopment plan. A consultant, Buxton, was hired to look at the economic realities of the market for certain of the corridors in the city. We had the ULI Technical Advisory Panel come in also in 2009 and look at the central core of the city. And you now have been working with Keith and Schnars, who in May 2013 delivered to you the downtown master plan and major corridor study. And I think that you're currently moving forward with them on an implementation strategy for major elements of the plan. Now, as Steve Zelkowitz outlined last month, and I apologize I was not able to be with you because I was actually out of the country, but as Steve outlined, that the statute is very clear in the county. The CRA coordinator and I had met with County Commissioner Monestein to discuss the actual proffer to the county of the redevelopment plan amendments, and he was clear that he was more than willing to bring it to the committee and felt positive as long as there were projects that were going to be funded by the tax increment that was going to be paid into the trust fund, not only by the city, but also by Miami-Dade County, because in a CRA, you are actually in partnership with the county, because it's also the county's increment of the increase in value from 2005 that goes into the trust fund. And so with the community involvement, with the information collection, with all that is going on with the Buxton studies beginning in 2009, with the ULI TAP, and with the Keith and Schnarr study, we have an array of suggestions. We substantially have seen and agree with the concept of public realm, the idea that it is the responsibility of government to improve the public realm, and that includes the streetscape and using the publicly owned properties to the extent that you can as incentives to induce private sector activity. And so working with Keith and Schnarr's, working with the city staff, we've tried to identify what it is that are priorities, not for the long term, because in fact the existing plan has goals, objectives, and policies CRA-wide. But one of the things that has been in the mind of the chair and the city staff and the CRA staff has been trying to, in the short term, prioritize how funds are going to be spent so that there's truly an impact. Because as the CRA board members saw and staff when they went to Delray, a decision was made there to focus on the areas that would have the most immediate impact on increasing the tax increment to allow them at a later point to be able to fulfill the other goals and objectives for doing things within the CRA that wouldn't raise the immediate amount of tax revenue. And what I mean by that is they focused first on what they could do to enhance the economic viability of the downtown. And I think the chair and the staff have been looking at prioritizing activities that could happen in the downtown. And what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do in assisting the CRA staff in this endeavor, is to take the existing plan, recognizing that there are substantial numbers of goals, objectives, and policies, projects that relate to affordable housing, which relate to quality of life issues, which relate to public properties, which relate to drainage and sewer and water, but to, for the amendment, recognize that those are existing, but also identify specific capital projects that are in the short term, the thing that the limited amount of CRA tax increment could be used for, and in partnership with the city, try to identify and fund those things that the statute allows the CRA to fund, as opposed to putting the entire responsibility on the back of the city's general fund. And in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to continue to fund over time projects, the decision was made to try to seek an extension of the life of the CRA. As Steve Zelkowitz said in his presentation last month, is that CRAs that were established after a certain date, and this is one of them, can in effect have a useful life and existence of 40 years from the date of the first passage of the plan. We passed the plan 2005, and depending upon the scope of the work that we want to do, the CRA's useful life can be extended to 2045, which would allow the CRA to capture the increment from the properties within the boundaries pursuant to the interlocal for both the city's revenue and the county's revenue. And so we'll talk about that as far as any questions you have about how that process may work. But what I wanted to do was to put a graphic up of the downtown city-owned property, because one of the things that we're trying to do in moving forward is to cooperate with the city's effort and the city's consultant in identifying those things that are going to be done on a priority basis with the goal of increasing the tax base, and assist the city and its partners in in making things really happen. And so what I was hoping that we can do, because of the limitations on the Sunshine Law, you really can't all talk with each other than in a public forum like this. And so the whole concept of the city-owned parking lots, the whole concept of the government complex with its office buildings and its city hall and the Mocha Plaza, the Mocha building, and the question really becomes of this is the primary possibility for incentivizing the private sector to take action in the downtown. The ability to propose that the government will improve the public realm, either as far as streetscape, but also as far as providing real estate, providing land as a partner in a major redevelopment project, and then using the streetscape to connect the dots, shall we say, for different public spaces and redevelop spaces in the downtown. And so I know that on the city council side, you have talked with Keith and Schnars about the visioning activity going on with the downtown master plan. You've talked about you've had a presentation about the streetscape, and I know that later tonight on the council agenda, there's a brief presentation on the action plan, and also there's on the agenda a discussion that the mayor has relating to the MOCA. But for this meeting, what staff was hoping is that we could hear from you as the CRA board members as a first discussion, a first public discussion, what it is that you felt or thought should be part of the redevelopment of the downtown, trying to help us understand the kind of projects that we can then bring back to you that would capture the imagination not only of you but of the community, and help us put forward in the revised redevelopment plan first phase projects that will be done in partnership with the city. Mr. Manager?
As Dr. Snitman has indicated, the synergy of this is that tonight we have an item on the agenda. We're trying to bring to this board what it is that you would like to see. We talked about, he showed a map of the parking. So we are, you all gave a nice 5-0 vote as to you wanted a downtown, you wanted other corridors and CRAs to be improved. We as staff have worked with downtown business owners. You're going to be seeing a presentation of that. We've identified areas that could be potential parking garages. We have individuals that are willing to move forward and building a parking garage downtown. We have those locations already identified where there are city parking lots. So we have been moving forward and identifying area to later bring back to you in a visioning session. A part of that is that staff is asking, and it would be on tonight's agenda through Keith and Schnars, is identifying a group of 15 people. They are in categories that would be brought up tonight. Once you give us a list of those names, we're going to be coming back at the next agenda, making a recommendation of who staff feels would be a good fit, and then letting you look at our recommendation, and then you also have an opportunity to say whether or not you want to see additional people or certain people on that. So this synergizes what you're asking, Vice Chair, earlier. Where do you all fit in at? We're letting you know that right now, some of the things that needs to be addressed with the downtown corridors, downtown, this is what we're moving in that direction. Dr. Snitman is ready to move forward. We're going to be meeting with you. Keith and Schnars is ready to put forth their presentation of identifying people who should be a part of this committee and then of this visioning process, and asking you all What projects do you want to see? What buildings, what land acquisitions, whether it's community centers, parking lots, what it is that you want to see, because when we go downtown to the county, we need to present to them projects. They don't want to see, as you indicated, beauty salons and just giving money to businesses. Dr. Snidman said it, that we were stuck in that mode because of the amount of funding that we were getting. But through the life extension of the CRA and possibly bonding those funds out, now you have real money to attach to physical capital projects, be it a parking garage, be it a city hall, a community center, corridor improvements. So that's what we're going to be coming to you for, and that's what this panel of 15, we're going to be sitting down with them, identifying, because they're the people you're going to be selecting who will have the vision that you...
Let me ask you, why 15, not 7? Why 15 people?
That's what Keith and Schnars recommended, but if this board decides we only want 7, it'll only be 7. If you say 5, it's only 5. But that's what studies have shown, that you get a good core of 15 stakeholders, people in various categories, because it's the amount of categories that we have. You have people from downtown business owners, universities. You don't want just one person. You want multiple people in those categories, so that they can give you, and they're here for the long haul of this. So that's why 15. But if this board wants to take it down to 7, that's your decision. But that's why 15. So everything that we've been doing leading up to this is based upon several council meetings ago, when you wanted a new downtown and you wanted new capital projects, buildings, brick and mortars, not programs going to businesses, but brick and mortar projects, things that the community can see. That's why we're having these series of meetings, the visioning sessions.
And when is the presentation is due at the downtown? I remember last year or a year or two, as I was a member of the advisory board of the CRA, that was the reason why we had Mr. Schnidman, in order for him to work on that life extension of the CRA.
That's correct.
What are the dates that we have to do that presentation down for the county?
As far as
The life extension of the CRA.
life extension, well, we have 2.5 years left on the useful life, on the existing life of the CRA. There's a process where once we get the plan finished, it goes to 2 different committees at the county, and then it goes to the county commission itself.
Okay.
And so there's a process where as Steve Zelkwitz outlined last month, once the CRA advisory committee recommends to you, you then recommend to the city council, it's approved. It's recommended that also the local planning board make sure that it's consistent with the comp plan. Then it goes to the county, it goes through a committee process, and then to the full council, and it becomes a lobbying effort to move it along through county staff. And the coordinator and I have already met with the county commissioner to make sure that he was on board with what we were going to try to do, and that he felt that there was actually support at the county level for getting this done based upon how they've been treating other CRAs.
Yeah. But in that plan, is there also a way we can include that north-south development? That thing's been bugging me since you showed it to me. You showed me way back.
The north-south, you mean north-south of 125th?
Yes.
I think we can, certainly, consider that. I mean, I think I should individually show it to everyone, and because this was something that, let's see, Commissioner Storell and Commissioner Galvin had seen back around 2006. This was the idea of the bypass, and actually providing the storefronts specifically on the north side of 125th to actually reverse themselves and face north and try to acquire property to create some kind of pedestrian-friendly activity that would occur north of 125th.
This is just in case we don't get the 125th Street from the FDOT. We have to look at alternatives, so we don't have
Correct.
to go ahead and redesign
Correct.
the entire plans.
And I think as the discussion that was, that you and Board Member Keys had in Delray Beach with the mayor and with the head of the CRA about their bypass, and the fact that people actually choose, even though there's a bypass available, people actually choose the narrowed right-of-way just because they want to drive down and people watch, because it's created by slowing the traffic down.
Right.
It's actually created a safer place. People feel safer dining outside without traffic going by at 60 miles an hour.
Okay.
And I think that the alternative is to provide not so much a bypass for the people going east and west, but to actually provide a destination retail for people who want to come downtown that doesn't require them to walk along 125th in order to get into a retail establishment.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions from Dr.
Could
Schneidman?
I just,
I
Mr.
do, Madam Mayor, if you
If I
allow me.
might, I wasn't planning on handing this out, but I have enough for the.
Hand it over here, Dr.
Yeah,
Schneidman. We'll take
we'll,
care.
make sure each board member gets one of those. To address the vice chair's comments in the beginning, the CRA has done a substantial number of projects to date, and the graphic that's being handed out is actually appears on the CRA webpage, and it lists the projects that were done graphically as of 2010. On the webpage, there's also a list of projects that happened in 2011 and after, and they total about $2 million from just the list that appears on the webpage, and that includes the CRA's contribution to the wayfinding signs, Claude Pepper Park, the neighborhood beautification, and the Arch Creek. So that there has been, a significant number of projects, but as you can see from that map, it's spread out across the entire CRA. And I think what the city's effort with Keith and Schnars is trying to accomplish, and which the CRA would like to partner and identify those aspects of the Keith and Schnars proposal that the CRA can take responsibility for. And in fact, the city staff, and you will probably be seeing it, and I know the chairman and the city manager have seen this was the list of projects that were identified in the action plan and who would be responsible for city and CRA. So there's a staff activity going forward in preparation for bringing a document to you that's final as far as getting your feedback. And so the summary of all of this is that the existing plan covers the entire CRA, 60% of the city. The existing plan has a number of outdated sections which we're trying to either remove or update to make relevant in the economy as we see it today. And that if we can do I'm not even talking about new projects, I'm talking about the blight and blighting conditions that exist all over the city that the current plan identifies as needing to be fixed. Board Member Storell saw that the impact of CRA's involvement in the swales and streetscape as it affected the western area of the CRA. We've seen assistance from some of the beautification projects, but the key really is because of the failure of the economy to deliver starting in 2005, the increment has never been there to do those projects. Additionally, right now, 2014, there are some priorities about what needs to be done in relation to the downtown. We don't have all the money to do everything CRA-wide, but if we do it like Delray did, and you focus on the downtown to increase the property value so that the increment is there to fund the trust fund, so that there is a dedicated flow of revenue each year into the trust fund, that's what allows you to finance redevelopment.
Let me.
Hold on, Madam Keys had a question before she has asked to speak. Go ahead.
I actually have a couple questions. The first one, I would love to be able to, before we get too far into all this and our visions, is to really figure out what, I mean, you were just speaking on it, what the CRA can do and what the city can do. We're getting ready to do our redevelopment of downtown, and how much of it is going to be city and how much of it is going to be CRA, and what portion can we share. And I think we really need to identify who's going to do what.
Okay, and I think that,
No, we have to be advised by our legal
right,
advice, and Dr. Schnidman, you're not giving us legal advice, but CRA advice. We need to know what it is that can be done with the CRA. Certain improvements cannot be done with the CRA. I think we really need to find out what can the CRA do, what can it not do, and that leads into my next question as to money in the CRA. With CRA funds, what can be spent in the city? What kind of expenses of operating expenses for the city can be paid? Operating expenses, personnel, salaries, publications. I mean, all the expenses of operating the city. What portion can the CRA help alleviate our general funds expenses?
okay.
And we need an explanation of all
Yeah.
that.
And one of the things, if I could ask the coordinator to make sure that each of the board members gets a copy of Steve Zelkowitz's PowerPoint presentation from last month. It was not in the agenda package, but there were a number of slides in that presentation that addresses your concerns. And, I'm not going to give legal advice here, but the statute is very clear about the use of the tax increment funds. And to go through a couple of responses, the response to a couple of your points, the statute is clear that municipal buildings, traditional municipal buildings, cannot be paid for with tax increment funds unless there's an agreement from all of the authorities that put money into the tax increment trust fund. Like if you wanted to build a firehouse, the county would have to agree if you were going to use tax increment money.
At a parking lot.
Parking lot, it depends. A parking lot can be built with tax increment funds if, in fact, it's in the plans and there is a tie to the alleviation of blight or blighting condition. So if, in fact, the need to upgrade the viability of the downtown requires a parking lot or parking garage, and that garage is seen as a tool that would alleviate the blighting conditions in the downtown by creating feet on the street, by creating a magnet that would then bring people downtown. As long as it is in the redevelopment plan and the project is listed, it's permissible to use the tax increment monies for the garage.
Well, are Keith and Schnarr's study, when they're going to commence a study, are they going to be able to break down and say, this parking lot's a CRA project, and this parking lot is not, and this building or this improvement we need, but that's a CRA project, and this is a city project?
Yeah, and actually, I think that this internal working document that staff has been doing is the first
It's
cut at
already
that.
there, yeah.
But
You want to make extra copies so she can see it?
certainly, this one is, let me see if I have a clean copy. Okay, yeah, this one has got some notes on it, but that's fine.
I think I should have a copy on my desk as well.
That one's fine, Leslie. I think what's critical to understand, and your concern is well taken, because when the city and the county pay into the tax increment trust fund, those are funds that are going toward the alleviation of slum and blight and can only be used for things that are allowed under the statute. For example, the city has responsibility for basic services, basic police, basic street cleaning, the basic city services. And the law prohibits the payment by the CRA trust fund for basic city services. However, specifically in the statute, and the statute was amended to make sure that it was allowed, is that if you wanted to have enhanced police services, for example, if it was something greater than, for example, if you wanted to have foot patrols, and the city didn't provide foot patrols, but you wanted foot patrols in the downtown, that kind of expenditure, as long as it's in the redevelopment plan, and it is in the redevelopment plan, would be an allowed expenditure for tax increment. city staff, and I think there is an interlocal agreement between the city and the CRA for the CRA to reimburse the city for the time that's spent by city staff working for the CRA, whether it's public works or anyone else that's doing things that are CRA responsibilities. It lessens the need of the CRA to have its own staff, and I think the clean team and other issues were actually handled pursuant to that interlocal agreement. However, that's when funds are, when activity is actually for the benefit of the CRA. The CRA's tax increment trust fund cannot be used to subsidize general city overhead, general city staff. So staff that does nothing for the CRA can't really be put on the quote-unquote CRA payroll. If the CRA is in fact using city space, it can pay rent. But if the CRA is in its own offices paying rent, the question is, the payments to the city by the CRA have to be in relation to services provided.
Okay. My last question, and I asked this at the last council meeting. You were not here to answer this, but I believe, or I'm going to ask you, what portion of all the tax dollars, both county and city, from Biscayne Landing and all future development go into the TIF?
Well, the way that the interlocal agreement that was negotiated in 2005 reads is that the CRA is 60% of the city, including Biscayne Landing, that on the non-Biscayne Landing portion of the city, of the CRA, that the only tax increment that goes into the trust fund is city tax increment, and the county does not contribute the tax increment from the non-Biscayne Landing portion of the CRA. However, as far as Biscayne Landing is concerned, 95% of the increase in value from the 2005 date
Which
goes
is zero?
Which, you know, well, you've got the Oaks.
No, the Oaks was built after that.
No, that's right. The 2005, the revenue going into the general fund of the city and the CRA and the county was frozen. So in 2005, the tax revenue from the Munisport site and the tax revenue from the rest of the city that was in the CRA is frozen. Forever, that amount of revenue will go into the general fund. However, beginning in 2005, any increase in taxable value in the city, in the city's CRA, Biscayne Landing and the rest of the city, 95% of the city's increment goes into the trust fund, and 95% of the county's increment for the Biscayne Landing site will go into the trust fund.
And when we formed the CRA, Biscayne Landing was at zero. It was owned by the city.
Correct.
And the Oaks were not built. So that
Correct.
means every tax dollar from Biscayne Landing will go back into the CRA.
95% will go into the CRA trust fund. The county keeps 5% under the interlocal agreement for its administrative costs.
So my concern is that the city, the residents, are all looking towards Biscayne Landing for our golden goose and all the tax dollars, and every bit of tax dollars is going into the CRA. The CRA needs money, but I don't think it needs 100% of the future tax stream from Biscayne Landing for the next 30 years. And I would like to see if we could carve out, and I don't know if the rest of the board does, maybe they don't, but I believe that even if I have to give up, or we have to give up some of the tax, the county TIF, I would still like to see some of the city money, the city taxes going into our general fund for operating our city, operating our personnel, keeping the our city citizens safe and healthy, and keeping the city clean. That's the entire city.
Okay,
And
Madam
I just
Steele, we need to
think
move
that,
on. We need to move on,
you know
Madam
something,
Keys.
because I want it clear, and I want to know if we are going to
See,
address that in our amendment.
This is one conversation we're having.
No, this is
and-
my second
Okay,
conversation.
so
I'm
we
not
need,
really
we
getting
need to
an
move on
answer.
with this. Madam Steele, go ahead. What's your question?
Thank you, Dr. Schnidman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a question regarding the agenda item. we're supposed to talk about the amendment of the CRA redevelopment and discussion as well of the vision of downtown. So does that mean that from all the discussion that we've been having, the downtown project now officially become the CRA project? Is that what we really discussing, or we have like a project from the downtown putting it, or is it the entire project we making it the CRA project? Oh, that's what you're asking. I'm not asking that's
Yeah.
what it is. I'm not saying is that what you're asking us to agree on.
No, I think that once, and Dr. Snibben can correct me, what we're asking you to do is to listen to the angle or where we are now with the visioning process. Some of these projects may monetarily exceed the CRA's capability, but we would like to try to get as many as we possibly can to be covered by the CRA. Am I correct in saying that? But depending on what this board wants to do, there's other funding. You asked us to go out on the city side and find out possible funding sources, which is what we're doing. So if the CRA has a very limited fund based upon its extension, then the rest of it would come from the city, and which projects will be covered by which will come back to this board. And that's where the synergy of the city and the CRA comes together along the corridors. What do you want to be city, and what do you want to be CRA? As Dr. Snitman said, 60% of the city is in the CRA. So you can have some be covered by the city and some covered by the CRA, but that would be your decision once that time comes.
Here's a concern that I have with the different project that we talking about for the downtown. For me personally, I take downtown more serious than what I'm hearing right now. I thought that when we went, especially the mayor have been going to different cities to look at the downtown. I participated in one, which was Fort Myers. In mine, I had the impression that we were coming with a master plan and a master guide where we have professionals that come in with a master design to share with us, okay, how do we want downtown, how downtown is supposed to look, and what are the businesses that we want to attract, or the buildings, or I know the mayor talked about mixed use. All that is good, but when I'm here, I know that we rushing, we want to see downtown. I do too, but I'm afraid that we not live up to what the vision is. Because when I'm hearing, I know that we need to have a city hall. I agree, but if city hall is going to be part of downtown, I need to see a master plan that, okay, this is how downtown is going to look. So from now on, if a developer wants to come to downtown, this is what I'm expecting. Even with a garage, okay, I know that that's what you want, a parking garage. So is it part of the vision for downtown? And how it's supposed to look? So I'm afraid that one of these days we're just going to find a $500 or $1 million somewhere. Then we said, okay, we're going to put a building here. And it's probably not even part of the vision. Or while we bringing developers is asking, then that's when we're creating the vision. This is a concern of mine. And I know that all of us up here, for the first time, from rarely that we actually agreed on something. And I think having downtown, building downtown, is something that all 5 of us agree on. But I'm concerned that how we rushing doing it, that's not appropriate.
Sure,
and
board
so
member.
I'm concerned.
Sure.
Isn't it
You shouldn't be concerned.
Isn't the presentation they're going to be doing tonight as of what it's going to look like?
Exactly.
And secondly, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, board member Sterile, because their rate took 45 years to get where they are.
Well, since 85.
Okay, master plan was already done here and was collecting dust somewhere in some drawers. And we need to move on with that downtown project. And it's not going to be a wishy-wishy because we have been to several cities and have seen what they have accomplished. All we need really is good faith, not just talking, but also to make things happen. There is absolutely no reason with the private sector who wants to be part of it. All of us here who said that we want to be part of a downtown, having the vision, having already a firm that is working, that has been working on it for years and ready to move on, I don't understand where you see the washy-washy thing. And I don't think we need to take 40 years that Delray took or 25 years that Fort Myers took. We are ready to move on, and we are going to move on. They're going to do a presentation. From that presentation, we would have a broad idea, and there's no downtown without parking lot. I mean, how could you invite people to come to your downtown, to come and eat at restaurant, to go to several activities you're going to be having and not having parking lot? So parking lot is the first requirement for anybody, any city who wants to create a downtown. If you don't have that, don't bother creating anything.
Madam Mayor, maybe you have information that I don't have, and I think that's what we're doing up here is to ask questions and to have a dialogue. I'm not a pro or I'm not against downtown, and I'm not anti anything. I'm not fighting. I'm not going against you or against anybody.
You can go
I
against
am
me.
just this is not in
That's not
me.
the point.
This
That's
is
not the point,
leadership.
but I'm still.
What I'm trying to say is that I know if you're building a house, you might have the vision in your head, but you need to have it because we're not here for life. Downtown, we might have a building now, but we're talking about something. Yes, that will probably start for 45 years, but we're gonna have downtown for life because you're not gonna build downtown in 5 years and 10 years. This is something that's gonna be continue. But in order for you to continue with a pattern, I cannot wake up in the morning saying I need to have a downtown now because that we need a parking lot or parking garage and we have it. All I'm saying is that I understand that we're gonna have. I mean, I'm hearing it now that we're gonna have a presentation, which
But
I
you were there when they
appreciated.
did the first presentation. We had a town hall
Madam,
meeting.
I understand
Mr.
that, but
Davin,
what
were
we,
you there?
what I
Madam
was,
Keys, everybody
yes,
was
I
there
was.
when
What
they did
we
the
have,
presentation.
maybe you're
When
not,
they
you're not
unveiled the
hearing,
plan.
Madam Mayor.
I didn't see the presentation.
If you heard, if you take
You
the
have
time to
to
hear
go.
what I said, I think that we will not have that discussion. I'm not saying we're not doing what we're supposed to do. All I'm asking, we did have a presentation about the master plan. Give us an idea how it's supposed to look. I went to Fort Myers because I am interested. I saw it. I have it in my mind how I wish to have it. The person, the consultant, present the idea. So what I'm asking you, and I think that's all downtown do. If we want to make it faster, we want to take Fort Myers or Delray Beach or their plan. And we present it, said, you know what, we're going to create a downtown like them. This is what we're going to have. All I'm saying is that every downtown, every houses that you're having, every building need to have a plan. If you do, I'm not talking about a workshop. I'm not talking about a guideline. I'm not talking about, I am saying that before you have a downtown, I want to see when you have the full plan of that's how downtown, and then you know specifically this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm looking for. But what I'm hearing right now is, again, and I will continuously say it, I hear a lot of passion, which I have too, and I heard a lot of things that's coming out of heads that's what we want to have, that's where we want to have it. It's like right now, if I have a developer come says like, you know what, I want to have a hotel in downtown. I can tell them, okay, you know, I talked to the city manager, okay, this building is for sale for downtown. We cannot have it that way. You have to have a plan to know this space specifically is for hotel, that space is for mixed use, here is for the garage, and how do you want it to look? What is the theme? Right now, I don't even know what is the theme for downtown. Are we going to have like a French? Are we going to have Italian? Are we having like contemporary? Are we, whatever else that they call it? So all these things, to me, from the little understanding that I have, I think that all these things need to come before us to tell us. And then we find the money, and then we find the developer, and that's how I think it works.
Madam Chair, if I can, Board Member Sterl That is what Keith and Schnars has been doing. This board in 2012-13 approved the Keith and Schnars report for the downtown development plan. So they have a very thick book. They did a study. They looked at our corridor plan, and you all approved that. So the level that we are now, you all approved in that report a Mediterranean look. You approved what corridors was going to be considered to be corridors downtown. You so what you're asking is the plan. It's already been done. Keith and Schnars did that, and it was approved by the prior mayor and council. So we're ready to go. What we're doing now, we're just following through with that plan. It came to a halt because of the economic downturn that we had. We're now picking it up. We're now finding a funding sources, which is why we brought it back and said, can we find a funding source for the plan that you all approved? Dr. Snidman is only here to extend the CRA so we can identify what projects would be CRA and which ones would be city. So what downtown, the city hall, we know that, as he said, those are not typically covered by the CRA, which is why on the city side, we're doing the bond study so that you can find out how much money would be for that, to what extent do you want city hall or city complex or city buildings, and then on the CRA side. So you all have already approved that plan.
Did we approach the county to see if they agree that?
That's what we're doing now. And what we brought back before you all.
What is it you're doing now?
You all approved under my tenure to extend the CRA.
No, what I was.
What are we doing now?
No, what I was about to ask you. From the presentation Mr. Schnibben just did,
okay.
If the county agree that we can use the CRA money to build the city hall, we can. Is that what you said? They have to be agreed. The county has to be agreed. We have to be agreed, or it's a no-no.
But we're not proposing.
It's a no-no. We cannot.
Yeah, for general administrative buildings.
That's just a question. Can you answer the question, please? Thank you.
Yeah. For general administrative buildings, which are completely the city's responsibility, the tax increment trust fund are not allowed to be used.
Okay,
however,
thank you.
Yeah. However, for example, a fire station that services the new development, for example, because you're building new residential above the density that exists, the question then becomes one of, can you build a fire station?
So City Hall is not part of it?
No.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Now, if I might, we're really talking about a tale of three cities. We're talking about the Delray, we're talking actually about Miramar, and we're talking about North Miami. In Delray, 125th and Atlantic have a similar function, and in 1985, actually, Atlantic Avenue was much worse off than 125th. The realization that they had in Delray was that they didn't own the property on 125th, and they had to work with each individual landowner, and the decision was made not to tear everything down, but to work with the landowners and to make it economically feasible for people to improve their property and to attract new tenants that would be paying a higher rent. And they had a plan that was actually a vision. Miramar Town Center, which is in the western part of Miramar, the city basically bought real estate. They owned it all. They made a plan. They said to the private sector, we're looking for a partner. And they ended up picking Rockefeller and Kimco to do part of the plan. The city built the city hall. The city built the Performing Arts Center. The city built the city office building. The city built a building in conjunction and leased it to Broward County for a library, and BCC is in the top 2 floors. The developer then was given the land in a partnership to build the parking garages, the wraparound retail, and the commercial and residential that would make it, quote-unquote, a town center. They even have a pattern book that not only tells you the location of every single building, but it also tells you what every building's going to look like. But they were able to do that because they owned all the real estate. And somewhere in between is North Miami. We have to have more than just a vision that says we're going to help the landowner. You are totally correct. The idea is that the only way that you get community support is that there's a picture that everybody sees and says it's going to look something like this. When you went to Fort Myers, I'm sure they showed you the pictures of 20 years ago and what they were attempting to do. And they have pictures of the buildings that are going to be on all those vacant lots that they showed you along the waterfront. But the reality of it is, here in North Miami, the decision first has to be made as to what is going to be the catalytic project, what is going to start it, and what the staff is trying to do is finding out what's acceptable to you. Let me throw out an example. If I could have the map put back up on the board. We have the City Hall complex, and we have, you know, where Mocha is, where the police is, where the parking is. What if that whole blue and green parcel had nothing on it? And you went and looked for a developer and you said, you did a request for qualifications nationwide for firms that could come in and do a new city center that would have not only retail and housing on the south side, but would provide you the space for a new city hall and maybe even a performing arts center. Would you be able, by giving the land away on a long-term lease or in fee simple, be able to attract a developer to partner with you? And the reality of it is, it could be like that. If you were willing to say to the private sector, we'll tear down City Hall, provide us an interim place to be, we'll tear down the office buildings, we'll tear down Mocha, we'll move the police station. It doesn't have to be downtown. What is it that you're willing to do? What's acceptable to you? You own that land. That is the first place that you can think about actually offering the private sector something. And to go out with a request for proposals for a city center won't generate the response that you want, because to get a proposal, somebody's going to be spending 6 figures in order to respond. And they're not going to do that unless there's assurance that it's economically viable and so on and so forth. But if you do a request for qualifications and you say, we have this entire block and we're willing to let you tear it all down, and this is what we want, and which firms are the most qualified because they've done this, whether it's in Scottsdale or Los Angeles or Minneapolis, and then you pick the top 3 firms and you say to those 3 firms, one of you is going to win the opportunity to redevelop all this municipal property. And we may even throw in some of the other city parking lots where you can do off-site satellite development. And then say to the private sector, so what is it you would do if we gave you that whole block? Now, that may be totally unacceptable to you. But we'd like to know, what is it that you think should be downtown if we're going to redevelop? As the chair said, you know, we had talked a decade ago about the possibility of moving the focus of 125th's retail storefronts, not from 125th, but basically moving them to the quote-unquote backside and making the backside, the north and south sides, the front. So you wouldn't have to deal with the traffic of 125th when you went into these retail establishments, and especially north of 125th, the ability to get people to park and to walk without the hazard of a thoroughfare was a concept. Is that acceptable to you? The idea of the staff is that we would love to work with Keith and Schnars to expand what they're doing, to come up with pictures, because pictures are not, you know, it goes back to that trite saying that planning is important, but plans are not. The idea that you have a plan is not a static document. So the continuation of reviewing the plan and updating it is what's critical. The engagement of the citizens in input is what's critical. The pictures are important because the pictures are what bring the people's imagination to support you in your effort, because they now see what it is that your vision is, their vision, everybody's collective vision is for the redevelopment of the downtown. And so the picture is critical, is absolutely critical. If you think back to the aborted effort to do residential development on Rux Park, Pioneer Gardens, it began with a picture The picture evolved when the legal restrictions on the easements under the property were discovered. The site plan was revolved, but in every single issue, there was a continual planning effort and a continual update of the plan. But everybody in the community had a picture in their mind that they were working from. And Board Member Storell is right. You know, we need a concept, more aligned like Delray Beach than Miramar. We don't control all the land, so we can't tell people, you know, what their building is going to look like per se, but we can give them a concept, and like Delray Beach, we come up with the goals and objectives of what it is we want to accomplish and what we're going to support and who's going to support it in a plan that says the city does this and the CRA does that. And in fact, as I've talked with the mayor and the manager, we have a precedent here that is interesting. When the CRA was first established, the first year, it had no money. Where did we get the money to run the CRA for the first year? We borrowed it from the city under an interlocal agreement that said that the city would advance the money and the CRA would pay it back. That was modeled after Fort Lauderdale, where when the CRA for the beach was established, the first thing the CRA did was acquire the right-of-way for the one-way pair on the western portion. And it took 10 years until tax increment came back to zero, because it was negative for 10 years. For 10 years, the CRA borrowed money from the city of Fort Lauderdale to operate and do its projects. At the end of 10 years, what was happening was that the TIF had increased to the point where the CRA was paying back the city. And here, the question is, there may be appropriate streetscape projects that should not be in a capital improvement program of the city. They should be CRA projects. There should be other projects that should be CRA projects. And maybe to meet the city's timeline for redevelopment, the CRA won't have the money. But if the funds are available and the city loans them to the CRA, it's not a city expenditure, it's a CRA expenditure that will be paid back as the tax increment begins to increase. A variety of different topics to get you to think, but the key is that we are trying to find out what's acceptable. We're not asking you to be the architects and the designers. We're trying to find out what it is that we can bring back to you that you would, find that would be in conformance with what you think should be done in the downtown.
And just to add, where we are now, Keith and Schnars has already laid out the roadmap for us. We need
This is
to do
something from the prior government that the
Correct.
board members have voted for. It seems like we need to go back to square one. I'm wondering, why should we reinvent the wheel? Because it's there already. It's
Right.
been done, it's been voted on. That's why there is a master plan. So what does it take now for us to move forward? We only have 5 minutes to
I'd like
finish
to-
that meeting.
I'd like to ask a question, please.
Hold on, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, where we are now, just to move forward, is that the purpose of this meeting is to let you know where we are, and the purpose of, we have Keith and Schnars at the next council meeting, who will be doing a presentation tonight. We synchronized it that way.
What is the presentation?
It's going to be about the downtown plan.
Which plan? The master plan?
Yes,
They're going to go over the master plan?
yes.
Okay.
And the fact that we need, as he said, community involvement, you will be picking individuals to have the community involved. We will be doing a series of workshops. We will be doing a charrette. They already have, this board has already adopted, you want a Mediterranean look. You want a work and play atmosphere. You've already approved the density.
I'd like to make a comment.
So you've already approved this. We're still working off of that existing plan. So what you have to understand is that we're trying to catch you up to speed, and we need to do the workshops. So this meeting, Keith and Schnars picking a group of individuals, is all a part of the plan that Keith and Schnars has put forth. They're the experts. They've already done it. You've already increased your heights downtown. On 126th Street, you've already changed the zoning. on the south side of the street, you've already got mostly commercial products over there. So all of that was a part of their plan back in 2005.
They did the 2005 plan also?
It was, when they started to do the plan and put it together, it was adopted by this council in 2012, 2013. A lot of studies was done as to what we need to do to get this downtown. So when you were talking about the south and the north corridor, that's why you have a lot of houses that are now doctor's offices. So that we're just picking up the plan. It's not a haphazard approach. It's a plan, and perhaps it's a process. So in the workshop, we will go over the book that Keith and Schnars provided and that was passed by this board, so that you can understand that they're the experts. They know what needs to be done. We just simply would be asking you at some point in time, what do you want to be city projects and what do you want to be CRA projects? What legally can be city and what legally can be CRA.
And also we can, I remember when they did the first presentation, we had come up with some new ideas as well.
Absolutely.
As, we can go ahead and put new things.
When was the first presentation?
You were here. Oh,
Yeah,
you were
we
gone. She was gone. She
She
couldn't stay at the meeting.
We
And
had
then
two, we had two
brought in
scheduled city,
some-
we had two other meetings scheduled in the city previously, and that's why I couldn't stay.
Okay, I understand.
And we would be more than happy to catch you up.
Yeah.
I would
to
like,
par.
but I want to make one comment, because through the mayor, on May 28th, the Keith and Schnars plan was approved by the previous council in between the two election dates. It was put on the consent agenda. It's a 4-page item. I pulled it up.
Mhm.
The board that approved this, there's no attachment here. I don't know what they saw. There was no public discussion because it was consent. So when you keep saying that we approved the Keith and Schnars master corridor plan, master development plan and corridor, I don't know who we are, but you've got several council members that are no longer here. I don't think they even looked at it. I don't think they cared, and I don't think they were looking at Mediterranean or Heights or anything else. So I hate to say go back a step, but we need to go back a step because this board needs to see a plan that was approved that was never presented to the public except in a workshop a few weeks ago. So don't say we approved it because it was a 4-page item on a consent agenda. No discussion, no presentation, because I went back to the minutes.
There were
And that was a big plan to just slide through for the city.
But Councilwoman, let me sit down with you privately.
We will, but
because
don't keep
you're-
saying that we...
No, let me say this. You're incorrect. There was community involvement. Keith and Schnars was hired prior to the prior administration.
Excuse me,
This
Mr.
is-
Manager. We need to close this meeting, and I
Sure.
think
And I can
if you need to have a discussion with Councilwoman
Yeah.
Keys to give her the background and
Sure.
everything that has been done back
Right.
then, we have plenty of time to do that because
Okay.
we do have council meeting. And this is the reason why I think we should not have CRA meeting prior to council meetings, because there are things we just have to rush into them in order for us to get to council meetings. And it is ridiculous. I mean, those things, this is things that we need to have time to discuss, to get in depth, to listen to what people have to say for us to move forward. Having a 1 hour, an hour and a half meetings, CRA meeting prior to council meeting, I think it's ridiculous.
We will be providing a workshop, and that's what we're leading into. There will be a workshop that will be scheduled prior to the next meeting to bring everybody up to speed. And we realize, and that's at the recommendation of our consultant, Keith and Schnars.
And they're going to be here tonight as well.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Now, is there anything that we need to vote on? And that's it?
There's nothing to vote
Thank
on,
you.
just to keep this.
Dr.
board
Schnittman, I
apprised.
would like to thank you for your time and thank you for the
Thank you.
highlights and the important informations that you have brought in. Well, I'm not surprised. You are one of the best that we have in this city. And thank you so much. Any old business?
No business,
New business?
no new business.
Okay.
To adjourn.
Nice. Second? Everyone in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Au revoir. Au revoir. Goodbye, everybody. Stay tuned for the council meeting.